Hear, hear. Hear, hear. Hear, hear. Parkinson's Podcast. Welcome to the Hear, Hear Parkinson's Podcast, where you will hear from special guests covering the world of Parkinson's with a deep dive on the World Parkinson Congress and a look at how the WPC has helped make extraordinary progress in the Parkinson's community by creating space for people with Parkinson's to have a seat at the table.
Here, here. It's yet another episode of the podcast Here, Here, the Parkinson's podcast, leading us on to the next Congress in Phoenix, Arizona in May 2026. I am Edgar Waldmanis. I'm one of the 15 global ambassadors for the Congress and happy to host this podcast series. With me, I have my very dedicated co-host, Eli Pollard, whom most of you know far better than me. So she's sort of keeping the reins here.
And, hey, everyone. Good to be here. Thanks, Edgar, for having me back.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. And today we have a couple of guests. They are actually a couple of guests. Yes, it's Bernard and Denise Coley. Welcome in.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yes, we're really excited to be here.
Good, good. For those of us who, Eli has spoken warmly about you it took about 2 hours and then I had to cut her off. But could you do like 60 seconds on, for those of our listeners who are not familiar with the two of you? So what is your background? How do you connect to the Parkinson case? On and on.
So my name is Denise Coley. I was diagnosed in October 2018, and I went to my first WPC conference in 2023, and I just was overwhelmed with the magical adventure. And I am a Parkinson advocate, and I look at education, awareness, resources, and research to help empower Parkinson advocates and to also make sure that they can advocate for themselves when necessary.
And I am Bernard, AKA luggage carrier, behind the scenes guy for this wonderful lady. My main AKA is as care partner, but then I have a list so long we'd never get to the stories in this podcast if I gave you of all the activities that we're doing around research advocacy, trying to increase the participation of underengaged communities worldwide in clinical research, because it is a very, very important issue in terms of improving our research results, our study results, and improving the integrity of research overall by having inclusion of diverse populations in the studies. And I like to say, for example, that we could be one diverse patient away from finding a solution or understanding Parkinson's.
Well, I think that that is something we can all countersign, that it is, as you say, one study away. And presto, zippo, we're there.
But one study away from a new treatment, one study away from the cure, one study away from new something. How did you, I'm curious, when you started out in the Parkinson's space, when did you identify together, individually, collectively, when did you say, all right, there's a gap, like there's a need? Did you come in already you already know this, you know that there's a gap, or did you sort of like start to notice it? And was there something that sort of triggered you to say, all right, no one's stepping up, no one's doing what needs to be done, so we're gonna fill that gap? What was it? Was it one thing? Was it a collective thing?
Well, I got the diagnosis and I thought, oh my gosh, my life has gone away that I knew of. What am I going to do? So I gave myself a pity grief party for a short period of time, 3 months, according to my records. But when I came out of it, what I had decided, this was for a purpose. I needed to look at what I had been doing previously in my life, those lived experiences, how I moved them over to my Parkinson's life. So I said, dear, I know you're really not doing enough. Would you like to join me and become Team Coley? And we'll go take a research session so we can work with researchers and become Parkinson's advocates. And so from that moment, which was shortly after diagnosis, we started on the road to it because I had looked at the charts and it was sorely missing women, sorely missing underengaged communities. And that is a thrust that I thought really needed to happen. How could we help those populations in rural to make sure that they have hope, that they have quality of life, and that they have the resources that they need? And that began our journey. That's a short version, and Bernard will give the more longer version.
And I like to introduce my segment of this part by saying in every library or every bookstore, there are at least two sections, the fiction and the nonfiction. I'm going to give you the nonfiction version of our introduction to this advocacy work. So first off, my wife didn't throw a pity party. She set out the finest linen, covered the table, brought out the finest china, the gold silverware, the crystal goblets, the whole bit. I mean, she threw a feast for her pity party. And several months into it, I said, dear, we've been together at that point, we had been together like 50 or 49 years. And I said, I've been with you along the way, most of the way, but I'm not going down this rabbit hole. Okay. This has got to stop. And to her credit, I will say this, from the day she got her diagnosis, went home that evening, she has dedicated several hours every night to simply researching around Parkinson's and not researching just like science. Okay, people get caught in that, but researching sort of the gaps in what we need. And my background is I'm a serial entrepreneur, management consultant. We're both have been mentoring people. We worked, as Denise said, with indigenous populations around the world to get them into the pipeline of corporate suppliers. So we had familiarity with working with underengaged communities. What was a surprise out? Oh, and I had 50 some years on community boards, nonprofit organizations. So when she's joking, I didn't have a little on my platter. I had several platters of things that I was doing. And when she grabbed me by the collar and said, hey, we're going over here and study research advocacy in the Parkinson space, I was looking at her like, you got to be kidding me, right? But when my wife throws that, virtual leash on you, that's it. It's over. You're following, So my answer was woof, woof. And off we went to what they now call a Learning Institute, but it was basically a research advocacy training program. Put on by the Parkinson's Foundation. And it was very interesting. They talked a lot about, the research process, things like that. But all along, something kept nagging me. I kept saying, I've seen this movie before. This looks very much like some things we've been doing because they're not filling in the gaps. Okay, so this is the pristine process when everything goes the way it's supposed to go, but that's not the world. That's not the reality. So as we set out on our advocacy journey, initially it was to raise awareness of Parkinson's in these unreached areas or in underengaged communities. But it didn't take long reading reports before I said, oh my God, there's a prevalence problem here. They haven't investigated a lot of regions of the world, so they have no idea how many people have Parkinson's. And they have no idea all the conditions that are going on. And it's that they don't have any idea. They have this sort of ethereal, we can think about this, but they have the boots on the ground type of expertise that we had seen from our previous careers and work. And also, we recognize that some of the methodology of preparing people to be advocates could use some improvement. So something both Denise and I understood. So we said, okay, we can, maybe this is our legacy. we can make some use of this. We can kick Mrs. Parkinson to the curb because I'm tired of her kicking me to the curb, and see if we can't do something positive with this.
Right.
See if we can have an impact. So that's kind of how we got started and how we got off. And I'll cut it there so you can ask us any other piercing questions.
Exactly. Well, the first one that comes to my mind, at least, is who's funding this? Because you say you're traveling all over large parts of the globe, and last time I checked, air tickets were not for free. Hotel nights are not for free, etc., etc. Do you get any government grants or?
No.
When you look at our laundry list of accomplishments, put a tick box by no outside funding.
Right.
And it's not that we're rich. We are definitely not rich. And I'm going to share some with you, which I think is really important. We think of clinical participation by underengaged communities. When we describe the problem, I describe it as an elephant. And on every part of the elephant, every body part, we put an aspect of the barriers to clinical trial participation, especially in the US here, where we have a legacy of health disparities impacting, in particular, our community, the Black community. So we label that elephant and all of its parts, and we ask the question, now, how do you eat an elephant? And, we get these blank looks. But the answer is one bite at a time.
Yeah, that's...
And so to answer your question, here is what we wanted to demonstrate to people, because they can let the huge elephant be a barrier to making progress. And one of those things is, well, we don't have the money. Well, it turns out there's a lot that can be done without huge funding. Some of it is just changing behavior. Some of it is just informing people who have the best intentions whatsoever that they are part of the problem, and here's how you become part of the solution. So we've done this partly out of our own pocket and partly by just recognizing and identifying the parts of the elephant and saying, well, this doesn't cost a lot of money. Let's just do this. And to be fair, we have had some funding, but it's not like grants. I didn't think of grant. We're going to do this project. If you'll fund this, we'll do. No, it's, can you just reimburse us for the travel costs to your conference? Okay. And we'll come and speak, because I think of this as our investment in a better civilization and in better lives. And we made that, we committed to make that investment and to demonstrate to people. And I won't say it was their job, but the hint is it was their job to do some of this, to do better. We demonstrate to them that it didn't take all of these things that they threw up as barriers. Like, I got to have a big grant. No, you don't. Okay? And so, as I said, you can look at what we've accomplished and go, wow, you're telling me that didn't cost a lot of money? The answer is yes. Yes, it didn't cost a lot of money. What it cost is an investment of your time, an investment in you listening to us and us listening to you. We have wonderful tools like, right here, Zoom. And, how much does that cost? Okay, so there's plenty of things that can be done, because our objective was to demonstrate that we can get this done without tons of funding.
Right.
And when you think of Zoom, you can use it very effectively. One of the things that I did once I was diagnosed and made this decision, I tried to get in as many studies as I could and clinical trials so that I could actually speak to what to expect, what my concerns were, what were the best cases. If you want to be starting at the very beginning, starting with surveys and maybe wearables and slowly moving your line to more invasive, so that I could have that. But then you also have to remember, you can do through Zoom to meet the community if you're not there. We've done a lot of work here in California meeting the community, because you need to understand the community in order to have trust in order to ask the questions to help people to move forward. So there's a multiple layers when you're peeling back the onion about what we've been doing. And some of it is technology driven, some of it's in person, but it has really helped to have a dual hybrid method.
And let me bring this home. Before we conclude this section, I want to say that WPC 2023 was a huge foundational event for us on which we were able to build. And again, it gave the opportunity for us to link with, network with, had one-on-one conversation with the stars of the industry, so to speak. Which doesn't happen, by the way, because we attend, as most, if you look at our background, we attend a lot of medical conferences we speak at, but none of them I would put in the same category WPC. It is unique in a lot of ways, which we'll get into through your questions, but it was an important inflection point, watershed event, whatever you want to call it, in our advocacy, because it put us together with those people, and it didn't cost us one more nickel than we had already invested to appear there. A huge opportunity.
It was magical because we actually had one-on-one meetings. And
Lots.
that made such a difference. Somebody laughed. They said they didn't want to follow me around because I didn't move but 2 inches, then another 2 inches and another 2 inches. But I'm having conversations as I go. And that was my life. But that was so enriching because to talk to somebody, get their perspectives, to find out what the challenges are, what is really important, was what made me really motivated to see what more could I do. What was I missing? And that was a unified world of all stakeholders around the world. So I couldn't say anything more than it was a magical journey or adventure that changed my life.
But that is then the only WPC that you've been to?
Yes, it was our first.
Yeah, because I'd just been diagnosed early after the one before.
Oh, you were to the one in Kyoto as well?
No, that was our Barcelona was our first.
Yeah.
Right.
But everyone talked about Kyoto. They talked about the little birds that Naomi and the people
the
made.
origami exhibit.
Origami.
And they told, and so what else? What I want to do? Have hope. I want to go to 2023 because now I have Parkinson's. I want to make sure I'm there. And it was just a great opportunity. And now we're encouraging people to go to 2026.
Right.
Because this is the only opportunity where a lot of people in the United States don't have to go too far, and they would like to come and join in and have the experience and to learn more and to be inspired.
Right. It's impressive. I'm at a lack of words, actually, hearing what you're accomplishing with very small funds and very short of resources, still accomplishing all this. If some of our listeners would want to do the same as you, where should they start, sort of?
Good question.
Well, the first place to start is figure out how to get there. Okay, just get there. Okay,
right? That's where they should start.
Just get there first. And in fact, I was going to save this for the end because I'm assuming you're going to want to know this. So, where should they start? They should start by opening themselves up to the possibilities, preparing themselves for discovery. And I don't mean just the discovery about the latest advances in Parkinson's research, because you can get that in a lot of places, but discovery about the people, the community that exists, trying to make lives better and to find a cure for Parkinson's. Probably one of my biggest takeaways from attending the conference was the beautiful community. And walking up to a Dr. Oken and having a conversation, just like he knew me for the last 20 years, or walking up to some of our heroes and sheroes that were there, Indu and Larry Gifford, and having a conversation.
Yeah.
And meeting, many of the health, the sponsors, the health sponsors, the research sponsors, those benefit organizations, meeting their leadership there. Okay, most of them we knew by name, but it's different when you're there at this conference because the silos go down. So I would tell people, come there and be prepared to be with your, if you're new to this, your new PD family. And if you're old at this, the family you've been neglecting, you should have been here already. Because that's what people should prepare for. They should prepare to come and bring their life stories to share with other people's life story and be prepared to basically have arms wrapped, the PD family arms wrapped around you.
Unity.
Yes.
It's really fascinating. Coming to a PD event like this is magical because when you get PD and you meet another person who has Parkinson's, that becomes your friend for life. And so when we got there, it was like a unity of people that I knew already, but I just hadn't met. And besides that, before we went, we had just come out of COVID. So I had this enormous plan. I had gone to all the webinars, talked to people on Zoom, but I either knew them from the nose up or the mask off, but in the Zoom faces. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go and look at their face. Then I'm going to listen to their voice. And then I'm going to look at their badge. And that gave me courage to go up and say, are you so-and-so? And that's how I walked through the halls meeting people, because I had even tried to contact people to say, what corner are you going to be on? What table are you going to be on? So I could make sure that I picked up the other group of people, because that was a one-time experience. PD community all together, researchers, medical professionals, PWPs, care partners. It was enormous and so giving. Everyone was willing to spend a few minutes talking to someone they just met. And you never get that in any other conference.
Yeah.
It was so well planned out with those little chance meetings. That made the difference.
You guys are speaking Edgar's tune. Edgar loves to talk about the unconference, which is
exactly
outside of conference.
Exactly.
It is actually a term, if you're not aware, the two of you, but in the meetings business, as it is called for professionals, they use the term professionally. They call it the unconference, which is everything that happens outside the main hall, outside the roundtable discussions, outside the panel talks, etc. It's what, as you said, Denise, when you're walking 2 inches and someone else approaches you and says, did you just hear what happened here in the morning session? And you say, no, what was it? And they start telling you that is the unconference, because it's not listed in any program, not on the web, not in print, nothing nowhere, but it does happen. And as you are apparently unconsciously professional at this, it is when you also stop and say, no, tell me what happened this morning, or what are you looking forward to this afternoon? Oh, there is this roundtable, or maybe I should join in as well.
Exactly.
And that is actually half the value for me.
So one thing I want to add on to that is, I want to say the best program that I enjoyed so much was the pre-boarding of the buddy program. We got 2 days, and everywhere you went, you probably saw 4 of us all the time, or 3 of us, but more often it was 4 of us. And it was the best thing in the world. We knew each other, but had never met each other. So we did a lot of prep work leading up to the conference. And then every morning, every evening, we did a debrief, and you often saw us together chatting. And we had a list of who we had seen, and to talk about some of the special things that they saw and what was going to come up. So it was the best travel experience through a conference with 2 extra buddies. So, well,
more than that. So I was going to mention this, but I couldn't have afforded if Eli charged me for the breakfasts the lunch we went out on, the dinner engagement, meeting people on the tour. I mean, one of our best experiences where we were at Familia Socorro, and a researcher who had seen us in the book nook and seen us talk came over, and we became best friends for life.
Yeah.
Okay, and he was kind of a groupie, and he went out and found his boss. Yeah. And drug her over to meet us the next day at breakfast. You can't buy. I mean, put a price on that. You can't.
It's magical.
So those are things. So you asked about telling other people, open up, come prepared, don't overplan, don't overthink this. Come there and become part of the community. And these things kind of happen.
Be inquisitive.
Yeah, that's so great. Earlier today, we actually interviewed some of the coordinators from the Buddies program because we want to tell more people about this opportunity. I had forgotten that you guys were part of the Buddies program. So you did it as a couple, because we match up people with Parkinson's and care partners or couples. So you actually were in the Buddies program as a couple, and you were assigned to a couple.
About our age.
Amazing.
So it was great. And we were really glad who we had gotten. And we are still doing a lot of things together. Yeah. Usually you'll hear us refer to each other, we'll see a picture or see that we've done something.
Yeah, but many of our collaborations that we have now, because throughout the industry, I mean, people know us, you work with them and you work with, but we met them at WPC. And that's where it all began. And so this has lasted since WPC, and we built on top of it. And I have to tell you that one of the biggest ones came out of a fun dinner we had with 12 foundations and their president. That wasn't one of those that we had.
We were celebrating birthdays.
We were celebrating birthdays, anniversaries. Oh, by the way, we were at WPC. But those have turned into wonderful collaborations post WPC 2023. Who knew?
Yeah. And then the other part was I was on one of the committees. And so I hadn't seen any of the people on the committee in person. So I saw them all in Barcelona, and that was really wonderful, and have continued with those relationships after WPC. So It's an adventure. It's magical. There's lots to see and do. And you just have to figure out what it is you want to do and allow room for a few things that you may not have planned that really will draw your attention.
Right. One question that we should not forget is, are any of you two considering biking to Phoenix? Because we just did another podcast episode with Rune Vete and Jeff Constable and Alison Anderson, who are sort of the three team captains of the biking, pedaling.
Pedaling to Phoenix. Are you guys bikers? Are you guys cyclists?
I have a story. For 5 years, I did marathons and 3-day walks. The price I paid is I had no cartilage in my knees. I've had 2 knee surgeries, so anything I do is recumbent. So doing something like that, my doctor probably wouldn't be too happy with me because they're not going to go and do my knees again.
I'm an expert in vicarious experiences. I will dream the bike ride all the way to Phoenix. That's about as close as I can get.
I wish everybody well and success. And we know somebody.
I'm with you, Bernard. I think we'll just be there to greet them when they get there, and I'll cheer them on.
The welcoming committee. Yeah. Hey, wonderful.
Actually, I was there at the very end when they came in, the reception.
Yeah, we were. Yeah.
Because we had a couple of friends who were biking.
Yes.
Oh, fun. Okay, great. So you got to see it in Barcelona. That's fun. We'll do something similar in Phoenix. So if you're there early by the Friday, you can be there to greet them.
Oh, great. Well, I will definitely put it on my calendar.
That's the plan. Yeah.
I think you should make a big note of that, to be in the welcoming committee when the cyclists come in on their last kilometers. I just heard that the longest stretch is actually biking for 37 days.
Wow.
Oh, they're coming from, or is that the one coming from Portland or Washington, Seattle? Yeah.
But I don't understood. I mean, even if they then throw in 2 or 3 bike-free days to relax and get their breath back, well, it still accounts for 30 plus days on the
Edgar,
bike.
we have an expression in the U.S. What happens on the bike ride stays on the bike ride.
Oh, dear.
Oh, good. We're nearing the end, more or less. I think we've covered quite a lot of what we accomplished to do. We have these two exit questions that go out to both of you. The first one is, your ship has sunk and you're washed ashore on a deserted island, but there is a record player there for some reason, and you think, oh, if I could make this work, then I would like to play which one record? You can't do a full playlist. You can choose whether it's a single record or a full album.
What would you listen to on your deserted island with your magical record player?
Both. But Bernard's being,
What is Bernard up to? We can't hear a thing at this.
Oh, I don't think we can hear that.
Yeah. Oh,
see if you just share it. Yeah, just share it. You know the sound?
Hey,
that's right. Well, actually,
You're supposed to have one answer each of you, not necessarily
okay.
collaborate.
Well, the song is, now we use it as our theme song for our SIG events. It's called "Can You Feel It" by the Jackson 5. And if I had that, I'd play it. It's a really uplifting song. It captures our community and the spirit that we got. And so we're asking people who are coming along on this journey, can you feel it? Can you feel it yet?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Can you
and
feel it?
Denise's choice would be?
Row, row, row the boat.
That's a good one.
Huh?
Okay, second challenge.
And if I had to be on that deserted island, I hope you mean it's a deserted island with the PD community, because, you know, we're not worried about anything. Don't send the rescue boat.
Second challenge. You're stuck in an elevator between two floors. Who do you want to be stuck with?
For a short time, anybody living or dead, who would you like to have time to chat with?
Well, I'll be funny first, and then I'll give you my real answer. I have to say Denise, because I have to live with her for the next 30 years.
Yes, good answer.
Okay. And then the real answer?
Let's see. Probably Notre Dame.
Oh,
Okay. That's interesting. That's cool. And Denise?
You better say me.
Well, that's the real part, is being with you, because that would be an adventure. But I was thinking of, well, two people come to mind, Shirley Chisholm and Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
Who was the first one?
Shirley Chisholm. She was the first African-American who was in the Congress. So, and we actually did spend more than 1 hour with her.
We spent 4 hours with her.
We spent 4 hours
It's
with her
wonderful.
when we were very,
she was a leader. She's the first woman that ran for U.S. president.
that's
Right.
right. That's correct.
She's responsible for the expression that if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring your own folding chair.
And she actually said that day.
Right.
She was amazing. And I live in Brooklyn, so I live in the neighborhood where she was very well known, Edgar, particularly for making sure that women had a seat at the table, and that childcare was, really about community and supporting and lifting up the community. She's quite a spectacular woman. Amazing. I love that. Good answers, both.
Yeah.
And I do have
Excellent.
one more thing for you. If no one mentions it, make sure to say, a good tip is to make sure that they, one, go and look at the travel resources, because everything you wanted to know about preparing for the conference is in the travel resources. And I told everybody to look at it, and I did that. The second thing was, this is an unofficial part, but it was the official part as far as I was concerned, where the registration was. You had all those round tables. And every day, a minimum of 2 times a day, a minimum, I would hold court on one of
We
those
had
tables.
meetings.
Yeah. And so it's really great. And so one of the things I was thinking, hopefully that will be there, and maybe half is regulated and half is not regulated. So you could have one table at 10 o'clock are researchers. Next one is a Dr. Oken or somebody like that. And then somebody like Omatola. And then the other half are people having free meetings, because they'll draw more people to that area because they can sit down. And I don't think everybody knew the benefits that you had put in to help them traverse the building if they needed help. And there was a lot of helpers there.
Yeah.
So those are my tips.
Thanks. I think I'll follow back up with you, Denise, and we'll explore some of those ideas you have. But this has been such a great and super fun podcast. I just, I'm Coley champions. I'm a champion Coley. How do you say that? I'm a Coley champion. I guess that's what I would call myself. I think the work you guys are doing is.
We'll take whatever we can get. We can't afford to buy anymore.
I'm a Coley champion. I think you're doing incredible work. And like you said at the beginning of the podcast, we're one study away. One study away from something potentially extraordinary. And that's the way people have to think about it. And I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you guys got to meet Edgar. Now, when you run into Denise and Bernard in Phoenix, you guys can sit down and have a chat.
Oh,
Absolutely,
yeah.
we will. We will.
Hey, so you have to tell me what your favorite Norwegian libation is, so we can make sure that that's taken care of in Phoenix also.
I will. Good.
Right.
All right.
Still.
Thanks so much, you guys. It was great to chat with you. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining the Hear Here Parkinson's podcast. If you would like to experience the next World Parkinson Congress for yourself, to feel and see the change in real time, save the date to join us from May 24th to the 27th, 2026 in Phoenix, Arizona. Learn more at WPC2026.org. This podcast series is made possible with support from Blue Rock Therapeutics.